Welcome back to another video. And so let's say you just recently bought a Raspberry Pi 3 like me, and you are concerned that it's getting a little bit too hot, and that is exactly what's happening. The Pi 3 is known for getting a bit too hot. So today we are testing out with what is the best method to cool down your Raspberry Pi. So I will be testing it without anything on the CPU, and then I will be testing it with some heatsink. So these are the ones I got from RS Components, and then if that is not enough, I will be also adding a fan right on top of the CPU to get some airflow going on the heat sinks. So let's go ahead and I'll show you my test softwares that I'll be using. So there are the two terminal windows that are open, and if you can clearly see, the first one is just showing us the temperature and the CPU clock speed. Now the way we are going to know that it's cooling correctly is that the clock speed, if not cooled properly, the temperature rises up to around 80 degrees Celsius and the clock speed begins to drop under 1.2 gigahertz. So we'll be testing that out as well. Alright, so this is the test bench that we are going to use, and we are going to use a test called stress, and that will actually stress our CPU. So and all the four cores. And the way we are going to know that the CPU is not thermal throttling is that the frequency would be stable at 1.2 gigahertz, and if it is thermal throttling, we will reach somewhere around 1 gigahertz or maybe lower, depending on how much hot it gets. So my room temperature is maintained at 30 degrees Celsius, and I will be using a stopwatch timer to check how long it takes. So current temperature is around 50 degrees Celsius on the Raspberry Pi. In 3, 2, 1. So as you can see, the initial 10-degree jump was very quick, and we are reaching around 20 degrees more than where we started. So we are at around 70 degrees right now, and the throttling should start from anywhere around 79 to 80 or 81 degrees. So the best we can do is wait, and I'll get back to you once it's done, and I'll also tell you guys how much time it took. Alright, so it's 1 minute and 19 seconds, and we are at the 80-degree mark, and it will start to throttle anytime now, and you will see the fluctuation in the CPU frequency. And there it goes. As you can see, we are now at 1.1 gigahertz and decreasing as the temperature rises, and I do expect it to rise a little bit more, and we'll give it some time. So it was around 1 minute and 30 seconds that the Raspberry Pi 3 took to get to the thermal throttling point in the stress application. So we are below 1.1 gigahertz and around the 1 gigahertz mark. The temps are still rising, so I think we can end the test here, and in 3, 2, 1, and the test is stopped and everything goes back to a bit lower temperatures. So let's go ahead and put on the heatsink on our Raspberry Pi 3, and I'll show you guys how it's done. So here we have our Raspberry Pi 2, and what you need is these heat sinks, and I will link it in the description. Many bogus heat sinks are available on eBay. Don't buy those, they are just waste of money. So they were like 100 rupees each or 1 pound each on RS, and they have a pre-applied thermal interface material, and that's I think aluminum foil or something like that. uh, so I'll just keep it aside from now for now. And what you also need is a little bit of tissue paper, so I'll tear up some, and here we have tissue. And then you need some isopropyl alcohol. Now use this with caution. It's actually harmful if inhaled or if you take it in. So apply some ISO to the and you need to be quick about it because ISO runs very fast. ISO actually evaporates pretty fast. So I'll shut down the Pi and make sure that it is shut down and it's not already running. So there we go, remove the power. And then what you need to do is very clearly apply ISO over the CPU, and this is just to make sure that it's very clean, and let it be and let it dry out. It will very soon because it's basically just alcohol, not the kind you should drink. So then we take this and strip out, so you can see this is the thermal interface material, and very carefully position it over the CPU and lower it down. And once you have done that, just press it a little bit and we should be good to go. So here is what it looks like, and now I am going to power it back on, and I'll get back to the screen, and then we'll see if the the heatsink actually beats the 1.5 mark or actually doesn't thermal throttle at all. So here we are, and just give me 2 minutes to set up. Alright, so we are all set up again, and let's start the stress test in 3, 2, 1. So we are nearing 30 seconds and the temperature has not even touched 70 yet. So it's definitely a lot slower, but it is still increasing, and let's see where it goes. So at this it has just reached 70 and we are nearing the 130 mark, and if you touch the heatsink right now, it would be really hot, and so that means that the heatsink is conducting it pretty well. And we have just crossed the 1 minute 30 seconds mark, and so this of course shows that the heatsink works really well, and just the heatsink is enough for the Pi to cool quite nicely. And I will wait for another 2 minutes, let's say, and if the temps are anywhere near stable, then we'll call it a day, and if not, we will try to use the fan as well. Alright, so it seems that we have reached near the 80-degree mark, and the SoC will start to thermal throttle anytime soon, even with the heatsink on, but it has took us 3 minutes compared to 1 minute 30 seconds. So it's almost more than double the time, and we have just barely started to thermal throttle to around 1.15 gigahertz, which is considerably not that much. Alright, so it's almost 4 minutes and I'll stop the test right here. And the heat sinks work, and it should be more than enough if you want to just use the Pi normally. And even if you're stressing it a lot more, tests like these are completely synthetic and don't mean much in the real world operation. But let's just for fun go ahead and attach a fan, which would surely eliminate that throttling point from the Raspberry Pi 3, and that is because it will continuously flow the air through the heatsink, making it a much better cooling solution. So I'll just go ahead and shut down the Raspberry Pi and wait for it to switch off and unplug the power. Now I think I'll zoom out a bit more. There we go, and here we have the fan. It's only a friction fit. It used to be on here, but I then removed it afterwards. But it's just a friction fit, and this is I cut the case that I used to have. And so the pin configuration is, this is a 5-volt fan, so do remember to use the correct pins. So I will have this pin here and the other one on the ground, so that is the third pin, and this should be enough to get us going. And I'll cover it and power on the Raspberry Pi, and the fan is on, and we'll go ahead and take a look. Alright, so we are again ready to stress test the Raspberry Pi 3, and I'll start the test in 3, 2, 1. So we are at 30 seconds and counting, and we haven't even reached 60 degrees Celsius, so that says a lot in itself. And I'll come back at the 1 minute 30 second mark. Alright, so we are at the 1 minute 30 second mark and counting, and we are stable at 58 degrees Celsius. So if you really want to cool your Raspberry Pi and really use it for something very CPU intensive, something like BOINC and something like that, then it's better to use a fan and a heatsink. But other than that, something like a heatsink would be more than enough for anyone to use. So I'll just go ahead and shut it off and take off the fan, because the fan is not really useful right now and won't do much good for everyday tasks. I'm not going to put my new Pi 3 through something really heavy related, something that is so much CPU intensive. Rather I'll use it as everyday Pi, and maybe I'll run BOINC once I have another Pi 3, but that is for later. And of course Pi 3 would be great as a BOINC client, and the other reason I'm not going to use it as a BOINC client is that the 64-bit BOINC won't really work, and it makes a lot of difference if you're running BOINC at 64-bit rather than 32, because it's CPU intensive and it's very calculation intensive, and the extra bits actually help it a lot than they help while running other programs. So heatsink is a good enough solution, and it would be great if you have a case with some sort of an opening around here, and if you're really stressed about dust, it won't really matter because there's no airflow, and I think something like this would be good enough. So once again, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys next time.